Well, today I am going to concentrate, as you will read here, on the recent financial crisis and the current worldwide economic recession, which I consider to be the most challenging problem we as economists must now face. Well, I would like to start this lecture by stressing the very important following idea. All the financial and economic problems we are struggling with today are the result, in one way or another, of something that happened precisely in this country on July 19, 1844. So, what happened on that fateful day that has conditioned up to the present time the financial and economic evolution of the whole world? On that day, Peel's Bank Act was enacted after years of debate between the banking and the currency school theorists on the true causes of the artificial economic booms and the subsequent financial crisis that had been affecting England, especially since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. The Bank Charter Act of 1844 successfully incorporated the sound monetary theoretical insights of the currency school. This school was able to correctly diagnose that the origin of the boom and bust cycles lay in the artificial credit expansions orchestrated by private banks and financed not by the prior or genuine savings of citizens, but through the issue of huge doses of fiduciary media, in those days mainly paper banknotes or certificates of demand deposits issued by banks for a much greater amount than the gold originally deposited in their vaults. So the requirement by Peel's Bank Act of a 100% reserve on the banknotes issued was not only in full accordance with the most elementary general principles of Roman law regarding the need to prevent the forgery or the over-issue of deposit certificates, but also was a first and positive step in the right direction to avoid endlessly recurring cycles of booms and depressions. However, Peel's Bank Act, notwithstanding the good intentions behind it and its sound theoretical foundations, was a huge failure. Why? Because it stopped short of extending the 100% reserve requirement to demand deposits also. Unfortunately, by Peel's day, some ideas originally hit upon by the scholastics of the Spanish Golden Century had been entirely forgotten. The scholastics had discovered at least 300 years earlier that demand deposits, which they called in Latin chirographis pecuniarum, or money created only by the entries in banks' accounting books, were part of the money supply. The scholastics also realized that from a legal standpoint, neglecting to maintain a 100% reserve on demand deposits is a mortal sin and a crime, not of forgery, of course, as in the case with the overissue of banknotes, but of misappropriation. This error of Peel's Bank Act, or rather of most economists of that period, who were ignorant of something already discovered much earlier by the Spanish scholastics, proved to be a fatal error. After 1844, bankers did continue to keep fractional reserves, of course not on banknotes, because it was forbidden by the Bank Charter Act, but on demand deposits. In other words, banks redirected their activity from the business of over-issuing banknotes to that of issuing demand deposits not backed by a 100% reserve, which from an economic point of view is exactly the same business. So, artificial credit expansions and economic booms did continue. Financial crises and economic recessions were not avoided. And despite all the hopes and good intentions originally put into Peel's Bank Act, this piece of legislation soon lost all of its credibility and popular support. Not only that, but the failure of the Bank Act conditioned the evolution of financial matters up to the present time and fully explains the wrong institutional design that afflicts the financial and monetary system of the so-called free market economies. and the dreadful economic consequences we are currently suffering. When we consider the failure of Peel's Bank Act, the evolution of events up to now makes perfect sense. Bubbles did continue to form. Financial crises and economic recessions were not avoided. Banks' bailouts were regularly demanded. The lender of last resort, or central bank, was created precisely to bail out banks and to permit the creation of the necessary liquidity in moments of crisis. Gold was abandoned, and legal tender laws and a purely fiduciary system were introduced all over the world. So, as we can see, the outcome of this historical process sheds light on the wrong institutional design and financial mess that, incredibly, is still affecting the world at the beginning of the second decade of the 21st century.